One of the things that's hard to keep in mind when we're studying history is how young most of the people in our stories actually were. But it turns out most of the people in history just didn't live that long. So if you're going to make a mark, it's probably going to be early. But what does all this have to do with a young French girl? Come on, we'll show you. So it's the 1300s, and France is about to not be France anymore. See, once upon a time, France invaded England. And now, hundreds of years later, descendants of those initial invaders are about to invade France in reverse. And they're doing a damn good job of it. The English are currently knocking at the door of the city of Orleans. If the English control that, they get access to the rivers that supply southern France. Now, Charles VII, the would-be heir to the throne, cannot allow this to happen. And his dad, who's absolutely batshit crazy, he thought he was made of glass, is not helping matters. You know who will end up helping out, though? A young French girl. After being prompted by the Archangel Gabriel, St. Margaret, and St. Catherine, she pretty much knew that God had chosen her to save France. Evidently, God has a thing for crepes. Or escargot. Maybe pâté? Fuck. French food is good. Guess God's not a fan of mushy peas? Anyway, she starts telling the locals, hey, God sent me to save France. I'd say people back then were naive, but at one point the Pope said that Mussolini was a man sent by Providence. It turns out we always might be looking for saviors. However, it took the local officials a little more convincing. But eventually, Joan talks herself into an audience with none other Philip VII, heir or Dauphin to the French throne. Now, initially, he tests her claim to be sent by God. Trust but verify and all that. So he disguises himself on their first meeting. But the maiden can't be tricked that easy, and she instantly calls Charles out. Charles is sold, well, enough to continue to listen to her. He says, listen, I don't think you're insane when you say images visible only to you appear giving you instructions from God. I just need to make sure that it's God giving you these instructions and not some evil entity. And so Louis' priests question her about her faith, and she answers their questions with flying colors. That's a good thing. He also has doctors verify that she is in fact a maiden, or a woman who has not known the company of a man, as she claims. Now I'll admit, my gynecological knowledge falls well in the realm of amateur. But even so, that doesn't seem very scientific. Anyway, lucky for Joan, she hadn't ridden too many horses, so she passed. And now Joan has the green light to wreak the vengeance of God. Because God is passionate about local geopolitics. And she also doesn't fight. Now, don't get me wrong, she is on the front lines of battle, and she is putting herself in harm's way. She's a very lead-from-the-front soldier, a la Alexander the Great. However, she won't enact violence herself. And this is where I call bullshit. War is either a holy action, or it's not. If it is a holy act, it should be taken up with the same zeal as every other religious command. If you are fighting for good, then the enemy is the antithesis of that. And how can good exist when there is evil in the world? God did not tell the Israelites to walk around the city of Jericho 7 times to then tell the inheritance to knock that out, silly. How will you help lead a conflict you will not yourself participate in? You cannot say this war is absolutely just and necessary, but at the same time say that I recognize that there is something inherently wrong with harming another individual. It's like telling someone, yeah, this job is going to get really fucked up, but it's absolutely necessary. Good luck. At the same time, you can't put anything past her courage, because you were walking into a battle whose primary objective is to inflict harm on another party. In this instance, you. And you do so knowing that you are not willing to inflict harm in return. Now, her initial role at the Battle of Orleans was propaganda. Hey everybody, look at this young girl. She says that God's telling us that we're gonna win. Isn't that sweet? That makes you want to fight, right? If Joan is one thing, it's driven. And she keeps running onto the battlefield in the most intense parts of the battle, which is exactly what the leaders don't want. Because you know what doesn't make good propaganda? The little girl who's telling us that God told her that we were going to win this war, getting unalived by a mushy pea eater. But you know who loved it? The soldiers. And all of a sudden, this young maiden who refuses to do violence is about to change the course of a war.